Welcome back to the Occult Rejects. Today, we're diving into a subject that a lot of people have heard pieces of, but not always the whole architecture of it. Most people have heard the phrase Saturn return. It is one of those astrological ideas that has escaped out of the astrology circles and into the wider culture. But what if Saturn return is only one chamber in a much larger clock? What if a human life is marked by a whole series of returns, cycles, thresholds, and reoccurrences, each one carrying its own pressure, lesson, opening, or demand? Joining us today is Theresa Reed, also known as the Tarot Lady, a longtime tarot reader, astrologer, teacher, and author whose work has helped make these subjects more accessible without flattening their depth. Theresa has worked as a full-time tarot professional for more than 30 years, has written multiple books, and hosts podcasts and teaches widely through her platform. Her new book is the Book of Astrological Returns, your complete guide to every life cycle from the sun to Pluto. On her official book page, it's described as the first comprehensive book of its kind covering every planetary return from the sun to Pluto. Written for both astrologers and astrology enthusiasts. The core idea is simple but powerful. When a planet returns to the same position it held at the moment of your birth, a new cycle begins. So today we're going to talk about planetary timing, life cycles, reoccurrence, fate, free will, and whether astrology is really showing us what will happen or whether it's showing us when certain doors are more likely to open. But before I get to the guest, I do have a few announcements to make, and I'll try to make it as quick as possible. On Saturday, April 25th, the Southeastern Masonic Symposium is happening in Asheville, and that is at the Asheville Masonic Temple on 80 Broad Street in Asheville, North Carolina. I'll be there in person, so come on down and meet me and the rest of the crew. And the speakers you will have speaking there, for the keynote speaker, we have John Michael Greer. And then we also have Colin Conkright, who has been on this show a few times, will be coming on in the future. And he's got American Esoteric. Highly suggest going to check that show out. And then we got the man himself, Ike Baker from our Canon podcast, my boy. He will be there speaking, and I highly suggest to make it if you can, just to check his out. And then we got Tom Carter. So come on down. I'll be there, and we'll make it happen. We'll have a good time. And also want to remind people about the website. We do have a website. If you're into reading, we have tons of information by multiple contributors. And we got t-shirts up on the site if you're interested. And that is occultresearchinstitute.org. All right, that is enough out of me. And please, Theresa, let everybody know anything you might have left out or anything you want to advertise or plug.
Actually, you got everything really, really well covered. So I appreciate such a great intro. I mean, the biggest thing right now is that we have a book coming out. It is dropping on May 4th. May the 4th be with me. And that is the Book of Astrological Returns. So I'm super stoked about it.
Did you have any say in the release date? I know some book companies, like, they picked that themselves, but was that
a little bit of say? I get a little bit. With publishers, you don't totally. They have an idea of when it's going to happen. But of course, I went and looked at the astrology for the day, and I said, okay, that's a great day, and let's go with it.
Nice. That's what I was also wondering too, especially with you being in what you're into. Nice. All right. So kind of like this, kind of the same question I ask all my guests. For people who know who you are but may not know your full story, what first pulled you into tarot and astrology? What made you get into that?
Well, I grew up in a household with a mother who was very psychic. It was a very superstitious household. It was also a religious household, and I'm not a religious person. I'd never been a religious person. Even when I was little, I just wasn't. But I knew that there was something out there that somehow had answers for me, but I didn't know what. And I remember being a very young child, and I would see in the back of the National Enquirer these books about witchcraft and stuff like that. And I was fascinated with the occult topics, but I didn't get into anything until I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, oh my God, Sabrina.
Oh my God, hi, sorry I'm late. I clicked the wrong link.
Well, were you sitting in like the Google Calendar? Like
I was.
Man, sorry. I should have warned you for that. It's okay.
Oh, I love Sabrina. Oh my God, I'm in great company.
Yesterday, so I'm like, this is great. 2 days in a row, I can't say no.
I know you're going to be sick of me after today. I was just talking to Story about how I got into all these things, and so, I was just laying the backdrop that my childhood was kind of weird, and there was, a a lot of religion, a lot of superstition, very psychic mother. But when I got into all the occult things, even though I, had an inkling that I liked witchy things, it didn't happen until I was a teenager. And what happened is I was like a weirdo in school. I was like, into my punk music and all that stuff. And there weren't many like me there, but I did end up making friends with this one girl who was very unusual. She had been homeschooled. She went into high school like kind of as a lark to see if she could fit in. And she did. So, of course, we were drawn to each other. We became fast friends. And her mother was really unusual because this was a rural area. But her mother was a pianist, she was a psychologist, and she was an astrologer. And so her mother did my astrology chart, and I was blown away. It made more sense than anything that I had encountered thus far. And I'm like, oh my God, there's something to this. So I started studying astrology like immediately. I was like obsessed. And I'm a very obsessive person, by the way. And then one of the days when I was in a bookstore trying to get the book that she had, which I didn't get until, much later, I saw a tarot deck. And I had seen tarot decks on TV in the movies. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to buy this thing. And so I bought it on a whim and I took it home and I got obsessed with that. And so this was all at the age of 15, and I'm in my 60s now. So for 40 some years now, I have been absolutely into tarot and astrology. And that's how I got into all of these things. Just the weird, was it an accident? Who knows, of being friends with somebody who also just didn't fit in.
That is cool as hell how tarot got you into it. I would assume then, like, the way you look at tarot, you do look at it with like the planetary and astrological and elemental associations. Do you look at it that way?
Because it made sense. Here's the interesting thing, because I had the astrology background first, when I started putting tarot together with it, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Of course, that's why this is this. It made sense. And there were some things, like I know there are people who do things that they get real nitty gritty with the astrology and tarot. Sometimes I think that that's over intellectualizing the whole thing, and it doesn't allow you to be intuitive. I'm more of an intuitive reader than I am one of those super, like, let me look at tarot and get into every little mathematical equation and this and that. I look at patterns. I'm very much into pattern recognition, what I feel. So when I read tarot, that's how I read tarot. When I do astrology satisfies my need to analyze things. And that allows me to go down a million different rabbit holes and look at all kinds of different things and try to figure out, what is this thing called life and where am I going?
I love that you just said all of that. Like, personally, I have always found the astrology tarot stuff like a bit excessive.
Yes.
I'm always like, if you want to do astrology, just go do astrology. Like, if you want to read tarot, read tarot. Like, there's enough in the cards themselves without being like, hold on, we need to map this out to this and that. And like, whatever people want to do, like, I'm in support of that. YOLO, do your thing. There's room enough for everyone. But for me, I'm right with you. Like, tarot for me is such an intuitive kind of channeling aspect that there needs to be that spaciousness to not be so confined by the hold on, this card is associated with this, which blah, 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 blah.
It's ridiculous. What happens is you start splitting hairs, and then you're not allowing the flow of information because you got to stop and think. That's okay when you're doing astrology, because astrology is a bunch of math, but tarot, it's art. You've got to like feel things out. It's kind of like when you see signs from the universe, which I'm really into signs. I think everything's a sign. I get musical oracles all the time. I don't stop and sit there and think, okay, well, here's like all the stuff in there. I'm like, oh no, that's my sign. That's it. I'm going to go with this. I'll figure out what it means. I want to feel it. I don't want to sit there and overanalyze it. You lose it then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sabrina, did you want to ask anything before I keep going? I want you to
keep going. I interrupted you guys.
No. Oh, actually, you know what? Real quick, plug your show.
Yeah,
sure. I've got 2 shows. Secrets of a Witch podcast is just me babbling about whatever the hell I want, basically, which is usually spirituality, tarot, relationships, psychology, things of that nature. And then I've also got the Heal and Harm show, which both of these lovely folks have actually recorded 2 episodes each with me, actually. one of each is out and the other 2 are scheduled. So if you cannot get enough of these 2 lovely folks that are here with me, check out the Heal and Harm Show on YouTube / wherever the hell you get your podcasts. But we talk about the ups and downs of spirituality and self-help and all of that fun stuff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to plug my shit.
Hell yeah, no, of course. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. I guess, I was going to ask you, do you remember when it stopped being a curiosity and became part of your life's work? But it seemed like that kind of happened right away. I mean, you kind of got
right away. I'm an obsessive person. I'm a super obsessive person. So when I get into something, I'm into it. And, of course I have my whims too. Like I'll get into some things for a while, be really into it. And then I'm like, whatever. But generally I tend to be very much gung-ho when I'm gung-ho. I'm the same way in a relationship. If I'm into you, I'm into you. You know it. No ifs, ands, or buts.
I've got a question. Like, where do you think that comes from? Like in your astro chart, like that obsessive quality?
Oh, I've got a moon in Scorpio, of course.
Do you think that's
moon
like
Scorpio? Yes. Most moon and Scorpio people that I know, fellow moon and Scorpios, we tend to have that obsessive quality about us. And that can be really unhealthy, by the way. If it's led to extremes, it could lead to you being like a freak. I'm not a stalker or anything like that. It's just I have the things that I get into that I really get into. So in that way, I'm very intense emotionally. So I think that's a moon and Scorpio thing. Absolutely. And anytime you got Scorpio in your chart, you know this because you have a Mars in Scorpio, you're going to have some intensity. You're not going to be half-assed about anything. You're going to have some depth. You want more. You want meaning. The other thing is I have a loaded 8th house. It is packed to the gills. And I have a Sun Mercury Cazimi in Gemini that sits in that 8th house. So 8th house has a lot to say about sex and death and the occult and, all those dark taboo topics. And the Sun and Mercury in Cazimi is really also kind of like an intensifier. So if I go down that rabbit hole, I'm going down that rabbit hole and I'm going to be really into it. And by the way, you got me in a rabbit hole last night, Sabrina, because I went and read about that Lindy West novelist thing. And I'm like, okay, let me go see what this is that she's talking about. Oh my God. I had to stop myself and say, girl, get offline, go to bed.
It's too crazy. It's too crazy. I'm glad that you looked into that. I'm sorry, not sorry. Because I need to drag everyone along with me into the craziness.
My daughter got into it too. We were all like, this morning, that's what we were talking about, and I blame you.
Sorry. It would be interesting to do her astro chart actually and be like, girl, why are you behaving this crazy way? Come on now.
Yeah, my God. Oh my God. But yeah, so that's where the obsessive stuff comes from. Anytime you've got like a moon in Scorpio, if you have a loaded 8th house, if you have Mercury in Scorpio, I mean, anything in Scorpio, really, you're going to be. I had a friend who was a triple Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and oh my God, let me tell you about this dude, though.
Oh, it's a guy.
Sun, Moon, Sun, Moon, and Rising all in Scorpio. The most intense person I knew, the most violent person I knew. We had a lot of fun together. He was really super crazy. Every woman I know slept with this guy. I'm the woman who has the badge of honor for not sleeping with him. Because he had this, I was like, nah, no, not my type. But very, very, and he was the absolute best tarot reader I've ever met in my life. I have never had anyone read me like this dude. And he was not a professional. He should have been. He was incredible, like bananas good, to details that was like, there's no way this guy could have known that. And the readings with him stuck with me like no other readings.
Wow.
He was intense and deep and scary. I mean, what's not to love about that?
Yeah, I get that.
What can I say? I'm a Scorpio stan.
You're funny. I like you, Theresa. You're awesome. You've been at this, like you mentioned before, you've been at this for a long time. What do you think you've seen anything change in how people approach astrology from then till now?
Well, there's been a lot. I mean, we could talk a lot about the way things have changed. You know, first of all, back in the day, if you were doing this as a business, you did not have computer software. You had to do everything by hand. Mistakes were made. You know, so the advent of computer really changed things for astrologers because
Mm.
suddenly we had software to make sure you could check your accuracy. You're not doing everything by hand. Now, instead of focusing on the damn math, which I like math because I'm nerdy, but now instead of that, you can focus really on the interpretation part, which was really, really lovely. It did a lot of heavy lifting for people. So, you know, the one thing we could say is technology really changed things for the better for a lot of astrologers. Also, the information has become way more accessible. Now, back in the day, when I was learning all this stuff, there was not as many tarot decks. There was not easily accessible information for those of us who lived in a rural area. Once in a while, I'd get to the mall. That was rare. And go to the tiny bookstore and get the few things you could get in these little sections. But there was no access. I didn't have a teacher. Couldn't find a teacher. Not in where I lived. So the internet and the computers really made things very accessible. Now, the other thing is when I began working as a professional, and remember, I've been doing this a long time. It was before the internet, and there was a lot more stigma. And I would encounter people who would make the sign of the cross when they saw me and found out what I did, who would want nothing to do with me, who thought I was a freak. I've had people scream at me. I had a dude try to attack me once at an event that I was
Oh,
doing because he thought I was the devil. I mean, this kind of stuff. So super scary, creepy things. And, you know, that was really hard, that stigma. Mary Greer once said that tarot is an outlaw profession, and I agree with it. But now, because of the internet, there the accessibility is wonderful. You can get the information. You can find teachers and mentors, and you can find information about this astrology, that astrology, this thing, that thing, this tarot. You can find so much information. You could buy a book by clicking a link. That's it. You just got to click it. It's sent to your home. You don't have to go to the shop. You don't have to do any of that. There are Kickstarter decks. There are decks for everything that you could imagine. Cat decks, dog decks, baseball decks. I mean, it's mind blowing how much there is. And there's also a lot more people now that are out there in business. And while that's good, it's also not good because there's also a lot of misinformation, disinformation,
mm.
irresponsible people, exploitative people. There are people putting out information that is harmful, that is wrong. They are doing things that are scaring people, flipping them out. There are people who have no credentials that have taken a class or read a book and they think they should be doing this stuff and they're causing real harm. And then you have other predators. You have the predators who do these certification programs that really are nothing more than a way for them to make money, give you a piece of paper, and nobody's going to look at your paper and ask, "Are you a legitimate tarot reader?" Nobody's ever asked me that in over 30 years. It's a crock for someone to make money. So the good part is, yay, accessibility, and yay, it's easier for people to find my work. But it also opens the door for very exploitative people to do harm. And that's where I have a problem with it. That's the changes.
Yeah, I never thought of the whole internet thing. How just one like you mentioned before, how you can make the birth charts. I mean, that's got to be so much more time. I would even think just for me doing gematria, I can go online now and do it instead of trying to do all that, you know, by math.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such a difference. But I never realized, and you're saying it now, and it's like it hit me. I was like, yeah, because of the technology and the social media, podcasts, and all this stuff, you will have much more of a slew of people that like don't really know what they're talking about, but since they have an outlet and they can be seen by people who don't know anything about it all of a sudden think that this person must, especially if they like put on a whole outfit, you know.
Yes. And then you've got the egomaniacs too that want to gatekeep and police everything and act like, you know, suddenly there's this hierarchy. And I'm not one of those. I think the information should be accessible, but we all need to put on our thinking caps, our critical thinking. We need to make sure we are citing our sources, vetting our sources. and finding the people that resonate with us. And that's not always going to be the ones who put on the suit and make it sound like they are the know all and end all and be all either. So there's a lot of trouble with that. Again, the internet, I think David Bowie once said, they asked him what he thought the internet was going to be. And he said, it was going to be great and horrible at the same time. And he's right. And for the work that we do, it's been great, but it has also led to a lot of problems. It's helped with the stigma, though. People are less freaked out now. Now they hear, oh, you're a tarot reader, astrologer. Nobody cares now. I rarely ever get pushed back. Rarely. Instead, now I'm like kind of cool,
Oh, you think I could ask you a few questions? Yeah, right.
Yeah, they do that.
For you personally, do tarot and astrology do different jobs, or do you think they work best together?
They do different jobs, in my opinion. So what I find with astrology, let's talk about astrology first. So astrology first will give you a rundown of your personality, your strengths, your weaknesses. Now you got a pretty good idea of who you are. It's like your natal chart's like the map of you. It's the manual of you. So it's a map. And then the current planets in the sky, those are like traffic. And so you've got your map, you know how to drive, and now we can see how the traffic is going so we can figure out how to navigate through this, again, thing called life. And then we can look at other things like your progress chart can show, what kind of a driver you're becoming. Are you becoming a good driver, or are you becoming off the rails? So it gives you really this forecast and a map, again, of you and your life and where things are going and where things can go. But tarot is the down and dirty way to get to the detours. Astrology can take you, your map can take you in many different places. But if I want an answer now, I'm going to pull out the tarot cards. Tarot also allows you to tap into the intuitive part. And so think of it, again, I'm going to use driving as an analogy. If sometimes when I'm driving, I just kind of get a feeling like, maybe I should take a different route. And I go with my feelings always. And when I go in a different route later on, I find out, oh my God, there's a big traffic accident or something in this part of town. Good thing I listened to my instinct. So tarot really gives you the ability to tap in and maybe avoid some of the things that you might see. And by the way, I'm a believer in free will. I think I straddle fate and free will. Are some things fated? Yeah. I mean, here we are today, us three, meeting on the computer, having this conversation. It was scheduled. It was meant to be. But we could also say, well, I could have made a choice not to show up today.
Mm-hmm. So could I.
Yeah. So, and astrology and tarot both can show you where things are going. But a good astrologer or tarot reader will also tell you how to make the most of the situation, how to avoid drama, or if you're stuck in drama, how to find the best way to extricate yourself or to cope with it. So really both the tools, I think, work well together. When I used to read for the public, and I don't anymore, I stopped reading for the public 6 years ago, I would always start with a general outlook. And general outlooks are very tricky to do. Not many tarot readers do them. I would say, don't tell me anything. Let me just lay out the cards, look at the cards, and this is what I see for the year ahead. Then I would look at their date of birth and the planets, the transits, to say, okay, well, these transits match up with this. Or if they don't, this is what they're showing about this, this, and this that you also need to pay attention to. And now you get to ask questions. And then they would ask questions, and we would go from there. And I would mainly use tarot unless it was a timing question. Then I would look at astrology. That's how I worked.
Thank you.
I got a question, actually. So why did you decide to go with the tarot lady instead of the astrology lady or the astro tarot lady? Because you're known on the internet as the tarot ladies. What was kind of the thought behind that?
Well, it's so stupid because my clients would always come and say, yeah, I have to come and see my tarot lady. And so that's the only reason why I chose it. There was no other reason. And, tarot, I will say that I used tarot in the reading because I'm a very fast reader. Probably 80% of the reading was tarot. 20% was astrology. And a lot of people really, really, really want that tarot because sometimes astrology feels over people's heads. Even though I can break it down, it feels over their heads. And then again, tarot's down and dirty. And so that's what it would be. People say, oh, I couldn't wait to see my tarot lady. And I would get people call too for an appointment. Is this that lady that does tarot? Again, remember, this is back in the day before you could book online. I would get these phone calls like that. So when I put the website up, Theresa Reed wasn't available. That's what I wanted. And so I said, oh, screw it. I'll just look at see if Tarot Lady's available. And it was. So I grabbed it.
Surprised that was.
Yeah. Wow. But Theresa Reed just became available. I finally bought it from the person who held it for 20 years. And I got it. So it now goes to the Tarot Lady.
That's awesome.
I like that. Even with the whole thing with like the tarot, I can see even with customers or whatever clients, you're kind of showing them something too, where there's something tangible besides, like, I don't know if you're showing birth charts or what, but when you're laying out cards, I just feel like that's more interactive, and it's might even just make it more comfortable and easier for them.
People love a visual aid. They love to see the pictures. They love it. And it opens up curiosity, opens up conversations. And sometimes too, for when you're doing readings, I mean, you can pull a card and instead of interpreting it, you can give it to a client and say, okay, now you pulled this death card. What does that mean to you? What are you getting out of this? What's changing in your life? Now we've got these big, deep conversations happening, because tarot isn't just about prediction, and neither is astrology, by the way. It is about opening up a conversation and looking at, again, where we are, where we're going, who we are, and trying to put it all together in a way that is going to be helpful to the person sitting at your table. Cards help.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so.
And with cards too, it's like people can see you turning them over in real time. So it's like they know that you're not bullshitting. Like you didn't like plant those cards in a sketchy way. Like they can see it happening, like even on Zoom or something. Like, and so there's kind of an inarguability about that kind of live action card reading that I think helps people feel a little bit more grounded.
It does, but when I stopped doing in person and was doing only phone, I never showed my cards, but my clients trusted me because they had worked with me for so long. And I really loved the phone readings. And the reason why I loved phone readings over Zoom and over in person is I had nothing to go on. And so I could just let my intuition go to work. And I found that it was, number one, I was less distracted by the person sitting there. And I could just really, really go to town. So oddly enough, I found phone readings were more preferable.
That's so interesting. I've had people ask me to do those over the years, and like I've sometimes done it, but I'm pretty like protective of my phone number, so usually I would just rather not unless I know somebody like in reality. But it is interesting that some folks did have a preference for that, and I found it was a lot of like older folks who were maybe used to that as like their thing from time.
That's so interesting, because the only reason why I started doing phone readings back in the day, this is again back in the day, is because one of my older clients broke her hip and she goes, I can't get up those stairs. Can you do it over the phone? I'm like, I'll try. I did it over the phone. It went so well. She told all of her old friends about it. And so also I was doing all these older women, and I mean, they used to have to come here. And instead, I could be on the phone. They could be in the comfort of the home. They didn't have to drive down here. They loved it. And that's what started the phone readings. It was all because of that lady who broke her hip.
Wow. Look at that. You didn't see that in the cards, did you?
No, I didn't see it in the cards. In fact, when she showed up for her appointment, she had a walker, and I had to help her get up the stairs. And I'm like, what are you doing? You didn't tell me you broke your hip, And she's like, oh my God, yeah. And that's when we just were like, no, you can't do this again. This is, I don't want you to fall on me,
All right. I think we're going to start getting into like some questions kind of like, about the book. Yeah. What made you want to write a whole book on astrological returns?
I wrote it because I couldn't find the book that I needed. That's really what it comes down to. There are books. Yeah, there are books on solar returns. I have some that are good. I have a really good book on lunar returns somehow in my pile of books. And at the time, and I was telling Sabrina this too, I was in the middle of my second Saturn return. And I've written about it in one of my other books, Twist Your Fate, about returns and stuff, but not in depth. Not all the returns, I just wrote some stuff there. And I was in the second Saturn return and having one hell of a bad second Saturn return. And so I started looking around like, how come all the information is only about the damn first Saturn return? What is it now that I'm old? Nobody cares. What is this? You know, I started to feel like astrologers are ageist. So I got kind of cranky about it. And then I'm looking around and then I started my Jupiter return. I'm like, oh, okay, I know what the Jupiter turn's all about. I've been through a few, but, you know, I wanted information. So I'm looking around. I'm like, wow, there ain't jack about this. And the United States just went through a Pluto return. And, you know, there's a lot of astrologers out there speculating on it and yada, yada, yada. But that's really what it was. I started getting kind of cranky because, you know, I'm like, oh, I have to peck here and look there. I'm like, why can't there just be a book of returns that just breaks it down, covers all the basics? So that way, when you're stuck, you could just look it up and say, oh, yeah, the Chiron return, you know what to look at. And then you're one and done. And so I said, oh, bingo. And I went to my publisher and I said, somebody needs to write a book on this, basically, because I can't find the book I need. And they're like, that's a great idea. So that's why I wrote the book, because I couldn't find it. And it's one of these books, I always like to say I'm the gateway to all things tarot and astrology, because I like to make everything super accessible, get you in the door. Here's what you need to know. This is the basics. Now here's where you can go deeper. You want to get real crazy, you want to learn all the astrology on tarot and complicate your life, here's where you can go. But you really don't need all that. Here's boom, boom, boom. This is what you need. Let's get to it. And there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. You got it.
Was there a moment when it clicked for you that returns weren't just one famous concept like Saturn return, but an entire framework?
Well, you know, because I've done astrology for so long, when I would work with a client, sometimes we do a solar return, which solar return is the most popular one. That's one most people are going to work with, is the solar return, your birthday chart for the year. And, you know, I've done other return charts here and there for clients, done return charts for myself, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things is, again, I love pattern recognition, and returns are really all about patterns. Astrology is all about patterns. Tarot's all this stuff is about patterns, really. And so, you know, with the returns, I would notice things too, like, okay, let me do my Venus return. I am spending a lot of money on this crap that I should be spending it on. Just like that Venus return said, maybe I could dial this back a bit. So it really sets like a tone. It shows the cycles of where action can be happening. And then again, it allows you to make some really good choices. But it's really just about the patterns. It's patterns. It's nothing but patterns. And what I saw, which was interesting, in my second Saturn return chart, you know, oh, by the way, when you do return charts, for every single return, whether I'm doing Saturn return, solar return, Jupiter return, whatnot, I actually do two charts. So the first thing I'll do is the return chart. That is the chart that is cast at the exact moment that the return happens. And so we cast that first, and that allows you to, you know, read it like a birth chart for this next phase of your life. So my second Saturn return, we look at that birth chart for that, and you will get more than one because Saturn sometimes passes over Saturn a few times. The one you want to look at is the last Saturn return, because that is going to be the one that is setting the tone for the next 27 years. So the Saturn return chart is the birth of the lessons that you need to learn in this next phase. In your natal chart, wherever Saturn resides is what you are learning, period. Saturn's all about lessons. But the Saturn return is going to, number one, amplify that lesson, but it will also show other patterns that are going to be very important going forward. So it's really super fascinating stuff. And again, this is why you kind of tend to go down rabbit holes with this stuff, because suddenly it's like, oh my God, I am, you know, wearing this hat, doing this thing and that. So it's really, really super fascinating. And I'm making it sound super convoluted, which I apologize for. It's actually much simpler than what I'm making it sound. So again, we look at, again, the second Saturn return. I'll just tell you about my chart. So even though Saturn sits in my fifth house in my natal chart, that means I have lessons about romance, creativity, parenting, pleasure. Those are things that I'm going to learn lots of lessons about. And by the way, my Saturn is horribly aspected, so there's lots of lessons there. But when I look at the second Saturn return, Saturn is in my seventh house. So not only do I carry these other lessons through my entire life, but for the next 27 years, relationships are going to be a big theme. Now, that Saturn, unlike my Saturn in my natal chart, is very well aspected. And so what that's telling me is that, okay, I'm learning things about relationships and discernment and who belongs in my life and who is going to be helpful and who is going to be harmful. So there's a really beautiful energy here that shows I'm learning a lot from this lifetime and taking forward. I'm taking what I've learned and hopefully developing much healthier relationships, which is something I've actually been working on with the second Saturn return. So when I did the chart, I'm like, that makes sense. I am doing a lot of work on certain relationships, and this looks like that's going to be the theme for the next 30 years of my life. Relationships are going to be everything.
I do have a question from the chat. Does Theresa think the Virgo and Revelation 12 are connected? September 2017, Virgo and Jupiter are sign. Oh, also the star Regulus has moved into Virgo 2012, so supposed to signal queenship or matriarchy.
First of all, Revelation 12, is that a biblical thing?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Maybe. I don't know. Sorry.
I'm not religious at all. I stated at the beginning. I'm very, very non-religious. If you quote Bible at me, I'm going to think you're, speaking some other language. I won't be able to refer to that at all. And no offense, and I'm not saying this is an offensive thing. I have no interest in learning about it. Remember, I'm obsessive. When I'm into something, I'm into something. If I'm not, I'm not. And I've never been into any of that. I tried reading the Bible. I'm like, this isn't my type of thing. Let me read Flowers in the Attic instead. That's much that was more up my alley when I was young. So, so if there's a biblical thing and there's a question about that, I'm not the person to answer that. And also when it comes to fixed stars, I don't work with the fixed stars either. There are astrologers who work with the fixed stars. Anne Orderly would be able to answer that question. And a lot of people are talking about the matriarchy. Is it possible? Yeah, well, a lot of things are possible. It's going to depend on where you live, if that's going to take root or not. You can't just say it as a whole, because in some places in the world, maybe. Other places, probably not. So I would say I'll keep an open mind on it, but I can't give you a real firm yes or no on that. Astrology, and I've said this all the time, astrology is theory. We get an idea of where things are going, and later on we can look back and say, oh, that's what that meant. So a lot of people are talking matriarchy, and I'm like, well, it could happen. I'm going to wait, and I'm not going to make a hard and firm because I'm not feeling it.
All right. Thank you. Just wanted to ask for the person. Sabrina, did you have any questions before I keep going?
No, go for it.
Okay. When a return hits, is it usually more external events, inner transformation, or the relationship between the two? Or do you think it's other more?
It's a whole lot of things. I mean, it really feels like the planets are getting plugged in. They're energized. At the exact moment of that return, they're energized. Now, let me talk about this. I'll talk about my second Saturn return. So, first of all, when I'm at 17 degrees Pisces Saturn. So when Saturn first went into Pisces, that means the return officially began, even though it's not exact. When it's exact, that's your Saturn return, but it officially begins. And so there was about a year and a half before it hit hard. However, I had other stuff happening astrologically, and so my Saturn return came in like a battering ram. It was awful. And I heard the second Saturn return wasn't going to be that bad. And I'm like, well, somebody forgot to look at my messy chart for one thing, and they forgot to check what Pluto was doing. So I ended up right from the jump. Lessons were coming in left and right. And so I was feeling it immediately. And that meant it was go time. There was no effing around. I had to be on my game and dealing with some really super, super heavy stuff that I never thought in a million years I'd be dealing with. And without going into the details, the one thing is when I go into that mode, I'm not fun to be around. And so it was a very, very intense time of my life. Once the Jupiter return kicked in about a year later, it started getting a little better. But by then, the Saturn return was really activated because now it was exact. And so when that Saturn return was exact, there were some other issues that were coming into the picture that needed to be dealt with. that were also really intense, really super heavy. And it felt like I had no choice. I better go in and deal with it. So again, it's like it's getting plugged in. The universe is getting your attention. It got my attention immediately when Saturn went into Pisces. But once it was then exact, it felt like everything came to a head. Some things happened and they got dealt with. And after the Saturn return was done, I realized I had more discernment, a much smaller circle. There were a lot of things I had to leave behind. And I felt a lot more freer, as weird as that sounds. But it was really intense. And again, I don't want to go into all the dirty details because nobody wants to hear about my stupid life. But I will tell you from the experience, it's like, again, I got plugged in. But I got plugged in from the beginning because I got screwed with that Pluto stuff. So what happens again in any return, let's use a Venus return as an example. So when your Venus return happens, and that again is exact, you might feel an issue around your love life comes to a head. Or in my case, it's always usually a spending issue. I never worry about my love life. It's always like something with spending. Like, God damn it, why is it every time there's a Venus return, I end up having all these expenses? Oh, yeah, because it rules money and spending. Duh. So I've learned that anytime my Venus return is coming, I put my wallet away because I know I'm going to be plugged in and I'm going to have to spend on something. So, when you see these patterns that they can be happening, you can also be forewarned and forearmed. I just didn't expect my Saturn return to go that way. Again, astrology's theory. If I would look back now and look at everything that went down in that period, because mine just ended, I can see, oh, sorry. I got that map thing. Things did explode right there. Sorry about that. I can see now, I can look back at the astrology and I can be like, oh, son of a gun. Now I can see it. But you still don't anticipate that it was going to, I didn't anticipate it was going to be like that. Boy, did it suck. And by the way, people, don't be afraid of Saturn return. Please don't. Saturn return is a time of learning and growth. I just happen to have a very messy astrology chart, and Saturn activated a whole bunch of horrible things. And then Pluto came along and made sure I got good and screwed. So it was intense. The good thing is, though, when you know this stuff is happening, and this is why I love tarot and astrology, you're aware. You're awake at the wheel. So at least I was like, all right, you're going through the Saturn return, and this really sucks, and you feel like you're driving through the world's worst neighborhood and everything's getting firebombed. Awesome. Keep going, woman. That's what it felt like. At least I knew.
So I've got a question. So how would you recommend that people prepare for their second Saturn return to get the most out of it and emerge alive?
Well, first of all, the first Saturn return is generally considered the hardest because each Saturn return is like a rite of passage. It's a level to a new maturity. And the first one is like, okay, it's time to be an adult. Stop laying on your mother's couch, get a job, pay your bills, and a lot of people in their first Saturn return, they complete college, they start their real career, they get married, they have babies, they break up, they get a divorce, they move across country. So it tends to be a time where you have to kind of like grow up and get it together. If you don't grow up and get it together, we all know people like that who just refuse to adult, and then they are in their 30s and 40s, and they are doing the stupidest things. Thank God for those people because they give us a lot of business. Let's just put it that way. So you get to your second Saturn return, and the second Saturn return, now you're going into the role of the wise elder. This is a time where you're preparing for your golden years, your retirement, your maybe becoming a grandparent, which I did become a grandparent. So it could be that you're planning all these things, but you're supposed to be taking your experience and your knowledge and helping others. So I did that because I wrote a slew of books. In fact, I just turned in another manuscript because I'm insane and I keep writing books. So it's a time to share knowledge. And I am preparing for my retirement, which is only 4 years away. And I'm telling everyone, if you want to take a class with me now, I'm not playing scarcity marketer. I'm telling you, I'm retiring. I'm old. Get on it. So I'm sharing my knowledge. I'm preparing for retirement. My house is paid off. I'm finishing renovations here. I'm doing all the things that you should be doing in your second Saturn return. And second Saturn return, oftentimes you're at the top of your career. You know your shit. You can speak with expertise. Sometimes you get awards. I got awards for my last book that I wrote. So a lot of things can happen that are great for your career. Also, your health gets your attention. If you have not been taking care of your health, a lot of times your second Saturn return comes along and says, woman, I found out I had a high cholesterol. Did I change my diet? Not really, because I like to live dangerously. I'm trying to walk more. Walking is one of my therapies, and taking more like taking these little things that are supposed to help it. But, your health gets your attention. You realize you're not a spring chicken. So I would say the second Saturn return, take care of your health, plan for your retirement. If you don't want to retire, plan for that too. A lot of people in their second Saturn return, they're also taking care of their parents and grandchildren. So there's a lot that can go on. So you really want to make sure that you're taking good care of yourself so you can take care of all the people now that are looking to you for your wisdom and guidance. Then you also have the possibility of going to a third Saturn return, which my Aunt Angie went through when you hit about 90. And that is where you prepare for the next level, which is death. And by the way, she's still alive. She's 103 and she's still going strong and sharp as a tack. And I look just like her. So we're a lot alike. She's very stubborn like I am. So that's when you really start thinking more about that. You can make amends now. You can, you can say, hey, I'm sorry for what I did. You can write down your stories and create your legacy. It can be a meaningful time. And I had a really great question that actually my daughter asked me. She goes, can you fail your second or third Saturn return? I said, that's a damn good question. Yes. In your second Saturn return, if you're still fighting the growing up thing and not really acting like an elder and sharing your wisdom and knowledge and being a schmuck, yes. I've seen people in their 60s and 70s that are doing things that are so bananas. I'm like, you should have resolved that when you were like 20. What is wrong with you? And how you can fail your third Saturn return, if you go to the grave bitter and nasty and never making amends for the things you've done in the world, absolutely you can fail that third Saturn return. The whole goal with these returns, with the Saturn return, since we're on that, the first is let me grow up and start taking care of, being adult things. The second Saturn return, let me create my legacy and make sure that I'm using my wisdom for good. And then the third, let me make sure I make peace so I don't leave loose ends untied and leave my family with a lot of dysfunctional crap that I caused before I hit the other side. That's what it's for. That's the best way to do it. And that's a pretty blunt way of saying it, but basically every Saturn return gives you the opportunity to get your act together, whether it means becoming an adult, a wise elder, or preparing for that final passage.
So what's your thought on nodal returns? I'm seeing more people talk about that.
Nodal returns, Saturn returns and nodal returns and Chiron returns. All three will kick your ass. Know that. And here's why. Saturn is your big lessons. That's your heavy stuff. That's the taskmaster. Chiron are those old wounds. And the Chiron return comes around when you're 50. And so when you're 50, it's kind of like the real midlife crisis. Suddenly we got to address those old wounds. And I certainly had some stuff during mine that I had to deal with. The nodal return, you will have a nodal return and a reverse nodal return. And they come up, I think the nodal return is every 18 years, and the reverse nodal return is like every 27, something like that. Off the top of my head, I always forget. So you get a bunch of them. So the nodes, they're called the nodes of fate, have a lot to do with your karma. Now, some people don't believe in karma. I do. I believe karma, some of us have an instant karma where you do something and you get your results right here and now. But sometimes we can't really explain that. And there can be family patterns and other things that we're carrying forward. So what the nodal return does is it gives you an opportunity to really explore. That's not the best way to say it. It's kind of like you have an opportunity with the nodal return to really explore your karma and your mission and the work that you're really here to do. You want to think of it as a time to align with your mission and to move towards the difficult things, because that's where the magic is. The reverse nodal return is a time to revisit the past and really release these old patterns. So both returns are important. And I will say this, my nodal returns challenging. The reverse nodal returns always kick my ass worse. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's not the way it's supposed to be. Why am I getting burned when I'm supposed to be having this great second Saturn return and this reverse nodal return? But the reverse nodal returns for me, there were some good things that happened and there were some hard things. When my first reverse nodal return actually happened around age 9, that's when my grandmother died. And it was
Mm.
very, very impactful because she lived with us. And then I had a reverse nodal return when I was about 45, and that's when my dad died. So I had like major deaths happening
Yeah.
at 2 of my reverse nodal returns.
That's
And both of them had a very big impact in different ways.
Yeah.
For losing my grandmother, really felt pretty traumatic in many ways because we were really close. And when I lost my father, it meant I no longer had to deal with my siblings. So no offense. I could finally say, I'm done with this dysfunctional family. And now you guys are going to honor my boundaries because now we don't have to hang out together anymore. Bye.
So interesting. So yeah, that's so interesting. I think I'm going through my nodal return this year. So I'm 36.
You're 36?
Yeah. So I think it's it's on the
Where's your nodal return? So it's obviously
Let me
North
look.
Node. Yeah, find out. We need to know this now.
Yeah, I know. It's so important. Hold on. My app is taking so fucking long to
And
load.
the other thing to think about the nodes, again, the nodes of fate. The South Node it talks a lot about the gifts you bring in from past lives, previous incarnations, but the North Node is the important one. The North Node is like, here's where you're going to have some stuff to work on, just like damn Saturn.
Okay,
And
so I found it. So
where
it
is
is 6th house, North Node, Aquarius, 17 degrees.
Oh, okay. So there's a lot about service, serving people. I mean, the North Node in the 6th house, first of all, could be your health. There could be things about your health. It could be things about your work. But if it's in Aquarius, the 6th house also, that's a lot to do about service. How are you serving the public? How are you serving in your work? How's your work serving you? There may be issues around service, issues around your work, issues about community, because Aquarius has a lot to do about community, the collective. How's your work impacting it? Are you not impacting? Are you hiding away? Or are you out there making an impact? What kind of impact do you want to make? Those are all things to be thinking about with that North Nodal return in the 6th house. And your health. Your health needs to be a priority now, your self-care. You got to make sure that you're not becoming depleted by doing too many things or being everything for every people. So that can be a theme. Also, Aquarius has a lot to do with friends. And because of the 6th house, your peers. Which peers get access? Which peers have proven to be destructive? Who needs to go? Who's serving you? Who's Zooming you? So those would be all things to work on.
That's super interesting. And then I guess South Node is Leo and 12th, 17 degrees as well.
Yeah, well, the 12th house is, first of all, the 12th house gets a bad rap. Everyone hates the 12th house. So I'm like,
a bad rap. It does.
You know, the 12th house is a house of introspection. It is a house of hospitals, charities, prisons. I mean, there's so much that falls under the 12th house, secret enemies. And with it being in Leo, I mean, what a great time to be doing introspective, heart-centered work. Looking into your heart. Also creativity, Leo's creativity, really pulling creativity out from those places that are really hidden that no one gets to see. You can get super creative. You can get super therapeutic now. It's a time again to really work on your heart. What's in your heart?
It's interesting. So like if someone is thinking about their nodal return, like let's say whoever listening to this is also 36 like me and is like going through this right now, like what would be the balance that you would recommend in terms of focusing on the North Node versus the South Node?
I always go to the North Node. Always. That's me though. One of the things that I think in a chart, if I'm analyzing someone's chart, I don't care about the good stuff in your chart. I really don't. Oh, yay, look, you got all this good stuff. Really, we go and look at the crappy stuff and fix that. You want to fix that because, for example, my house was made in the 1920s. It's got really good bones, but there's a lot of things that need to be strengthened and fixed because it's an old house. You can't be putting on a coat of paint if you've got all these other problems underneath that. It's the same with astrology. Look at your Saturn, look at your Chiron, look at your North Node. South Node, yeah, that's great. South Node is where we want to go because it's comfortable. It's that place in our chart where I've been here before and I have gifts from this past lifetime. Who cares? Go to that north node. That's your sore spot. That is where you have an issue that you need to face. And so I don't care if you're in your reverse node, your nodal return, go to the north node. Go to the north node. That's where the magic happens. When you deal with the things that need to heal, your life becomes magical. If you're only going with your gifts and blessings, who cares? The people with the charts that are really easy are the most boring people I've ever met. If someone's got a messy chart, I'm like, ooh, you're going to be fascinating. I want to find out about you. What happened to you when you were 20? I want to know. Whereas somebody who's had it all easy, whatever. Go where the north node is.
It's so
By
funny.
the way, James Spiller wrote an amazing book, Astrology for the Soul, that goes deep into the nodes.
Okay,
Highly recommend that book.
Astrology for the Soul. It's interesting that you say all that. Like this year I've been really into doing like markets, and I haven't done markets in like since before COVID, like farmers markets, like little community events, and like reading tarot like out in the world. Whereas I would say like the last 5 to 6 years, my business has been pretty much exclusively online, and it's been awesome to kind of go out into like people's homes and do house parties and things like that, which I haven't done in forever. So what you're saying sounds like super aligned with kind of like where I've been at, weirdly, but also like, of course.
And it actually makes sense because Aquarius is the community. How are you serving your community? Who is your community? Who's your friends? Who's your peer community? Do they belong? I mean, are you peers with people because we're in the same industry, or are you really aligned or not? All these things are things that you get to explore. And so it's pretty nifty and neat. And so my north node, by the way,
I was going to ask, how was yours?
It's in my 8th house. And the 8th house has a lot to say about intimacy, which isn't a problem, but also about other people's money. Other people's money. And it's fascinating because I always have had to handle other people's money since I've been a little girl. I've been forced to do it. And I'm actually really good at it. I think in a past life, maybe I was some kind of a money manager, or maybe that's what I should be doing with this life. I'm actually incredibly good at it because I've been forced to do it. Do I want to do it? No. I don't want to do it. I want to handle your budget. Why do I have to do your dirty work? I've had to bail my parents out over the years again and again and fix their finances because we were poor, but also one of the reasons we were poor is they were fiscally irresponsible. And so we grew up with a lot of money insecurity. And I was at a very young age, 9 years old, having to tell them what to do with money. I mean, what? That doesn't make sense. But 9 years old, that's the reverse nodal return. And so I had to start really doing some responsibility with money things. And when my mother died, she left my father deep in debt again. And he was 90 years old. He's like, what do I do? You're the only one I can trust. I'm like, oh, let me fix this again. It was horrible. But a month before he died, I got him out of debt. I said, you're out of debt now. He goes, thank God. And then he died. It was so he could at least leave the planet without debt. And so it was a really weird journey, but that's a journey that my north node is like, I'm always having to deal with other people's money issues.
That's so interesting.
It's
and so
bizarre.
If he was like in his 90s, does that mean that he hit that third Saturn return?
I was just thinking that Saturn and like debt and law. Wow.
He did, and he was able to go in peace.
That's so crazy.
I mean, there was the one thing is my parents had a lot of secrets that they didn't tell, which really kind of makes me mad, but I respect that too. I've got secrets. And I know he's got a couple, him and mom had some good juicy ones they didn't tell us. So they were sneaky as hell. I wish they would have, and that's a very 8th house thing. As an 8th house person, I love knowing secrets, but there's a couple they left us hanging on. But he was able to go in peace. He was so relaxed because I got all his bills paid off. And what a great mission for me to allow this old man to leave the planet free, debt free.
That's so interesting.
It was very interesting. And I'm very proud of that. It wasn't easy because my 3 vulture siblings were right there trying to like take what little this man had. on top of him being in debt, which my mother caused. So I not only had to get him out of debt, I had to fight these vultures off left and right. And that's why, again, at 45, when he died then, my father, by the way, was 50 when I was born. He was old. So when he died, I not only got him free, but then I was free from them. I'm like, fine, you guys go now and do your irresponsible things and be terrible. I don't have to deal with you anymore. Done. Dad and I are done.
So what happened when you were 36 at the first, I don't know if it's the first, but that nodal return?
The first one happens at 18. The first nodal return is when you're 18.
That makes sense.
And most of us, that's really happy for most of us. I mean, we finish high school and yada, yada, yada. 36 actually wasn't a bad time for me. I mean, I was deep in my business. I was running 2 businesses. I have nothing to report about it. I really have nothing to report. My reverse nodal returns were way more impactful. My first one, again, grandma died. Second one at age like 27, started my business. Third one, age 45, dad died. So I could boom, boom, boom. Which, as with my nodal return, you know, it's like at 54, I'm trying to think, at 36, 54, they weren't as consequential for my experience.
It's so interesting to like look back and be like, okay, hold on. Like even like looking back at my own chart and what happened when is like always such a fascinating exercise. Like, so I love hearing about how that played out for other people too.
That's the best part of it. You know, oftentimes we can predict and we can, again, astrology's theory, you can think, oh, this is what that card means. This is what the chart means. But then when you look back, it's like, oh,
yeah,
got it.
Right. Yeah.
Got it. Because you can't see everything. And nobody can see things with perfect laser vision except that triple Scorpio I told you about. Nobody can see everything with Scorpios. With triple laser vision, we can't. Because we can make different choices. Humans are humans. The universe can be unpredictable and random. We can get an idea. We can get an idea of where the traffic is going and how to drive.
I was looking at mine because somebody had asked in the chat. What were they asking? Which node I had? Oh, we just lost Sabrina. Yeah. Maybe she'll come back.
Oh, no.
They were asking, what was it? I'll just tell you where my nodes are, if you don't mind. Maybe you can tell me a little bit.
Go ahead.
All right. So my south node, I think my south node is in the 8th house. Let me look. I'm trying to look here. Yes. My south one is in the 8th house, and my north one is in the 2nd.
And what's your north node? What sign?
Oh, fuck. I probably should have just shared this thing with you.
Well, why don't you just send the image to me by email and I'll quickly look at it.
Yeah.
But while you're doing that, let me just tell you about the 2nd and 8th house. Those are the money houses. Ooh. And so I have my north node in the 8th house, which is other people's money, is my karma. In the 2nd house, you know, I have my south node. And that means that it's easy for me to go and make money. And that's very true. I'm very good at making money. I love to work hard. I've got no problem making it. I manage it well, except when Venus returns come along and then I spend like a moron. But, you know, so it's very easy for me to just focus on business and making money. But I get dragged into these things where I have to solve other people's money crises. So your situation with the north node in the 2nd house, there are going to be issues around making money, building security, self-worth through your work, finding work that really feels like it is aligned with who you want to be in the world. There's going to be issues around your values. Your values may change over time. So without knowing what sign it's in, 2nd house, north node, you're here to learn about making money, handling your finances well, making good decisions about it, self-worth, values, all of that. And in the 8th house with it there, I mean, south node in the 8th house, it could be a very indulgent house. I mean, it could be good for getting laid a lot, you know, like, I'm bored with, well, listen, it could be like, It could be like,
Not doing anything right now.
Yeah, I'm just going to go get laid. Forget it. But I mean, when a lot of people, when they're younger with a South Node, 8th house, they can be very indulgent. They get into taboo things. They enjoy a little bit of the wildlife. They, maybe have a very colorful sex life. Oh, here comes Sabrina. She's back.
Right.
Oh, I sent you too. I did send you my chart in the email.
All right, let me go grab it. But the 8th house. Maybe
Hey, this is funny. Holy shit.
Yeah, but the 8th house with the South Node there, you could have spent a past life being a hedonist. You could have spent a past life dealing with the goods of the dead. And, so maybe for you, dealing with things like other people's resources, the goods of the dead, inheritances, taxes, or intimacy, those are places that you can go that it's comfortable for you to deal with. Whereas in that second house, money, self-worth, that's going to be a big thing. I'm just waiting for the chart to come. It hasn't come through yet. So bear with me.
Send it. Let me send it again. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Sometimes things are sluggish.
Yeah, make sure I did
It's all it's all such fascinating stuff. It really is. And in the book, I do include some celebrity charts. And I also did a rectified chart for a character that I love, because I also love doing charts for characters that I love in television shows. So I have a lot of different techniques I share in there so people can get an idea of how these returns have worked out for different people. So we're just waiting. I think for the nodal returns, I think I did it at Freddie Mercury.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think so, if I remember correctly.
If you want, I could ask you another question. Sorry about that.
Let's see if it went to spam. Nope, didn't go to spam.
That's why I just emailed you before. Huh.
Here it is. It came up twice.
Yeah. Maybe the newer one I think I didn't do as an attachment might be easier for you.
Okay. So your North Node is in your second house. It's in Libra, which is, Libra has a lot to say about relationships and legal things. So this could be North Node here in Libra in the second house. How do I share with my partner? If things don't work out, how do we share things? How do I make sure I remain independent in relationships? What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. How do we dictate that and figure that out? So there's going to be issues around fairness, relationships, possibly marriage, legal issues. I would say with this chart, try not to get sued. That would be really good advice. That's going to be where there are some issues for you to be working on. Now, thankfully, it is in a really good aspect to your natal Mars, which helps. But Jupiter is also squaring off. Don't lend money to your friends. I would say with this chart, don't lend money to friends. And don't get sued. And when it comes to relationships, make sure you have very clearly defined things about what's yours and mine and what's shared and what's not. So you have to be very, very cognizant of that.
Otherwise, it's really
you're going to be learning lessons on that.
About a year and a half ago, I got divorced. I think, not that I'm going to get into it, but if I were to explain the whole situation, I think everybody would say she tried raping you financially. And I stuck to my guns and I didn't get fucked.
Good. So, then you know what that means? You handled your North Node right. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Because one of the things with the North Node in Libra, people who have it there in the second house can risk getting sued or being in a relationship that's unequal. Also, when it comes to that whole self-worth thing, it's really important with Libra North Node being in your second house to make sure that your partner is worthy, that you have an equal. And I'm not saying this to rip on your ex. No. I mean, an equal means somebody, we're on the same page, we're on the same wavelength. This is someone who respects me the way I respect them. We're together, we're a team, it's harmonious. For you, if you're in something that's really exciting, which that 8th house wants some excitement, wants to get a little bit dirty. I mean, that could be great, but ultimately, you've got to have someone who really respects you. You have that worth. You have all of that. So that's going to be big themes. And if you are not working on your self-worth, there is also a tendency that you might choose people that use you or in some way create inequality in the relationship. Like maybe you, and I'm not telling your story, I'm just making something up off the top of my head. Like maybe you get in a relationship with somebody, they don't want to work and they don't want to contribute anything to the household. Suddenly, you're doing all the work and you're coming home and having to clean things. This is making me think of that that thing that rabbit hole Sabrina took me down. I bet that woman's got a North Node in Libra in the second house.
Oh my
Because
god.
why is she putting up with some stuff she shouldn't be?
Oh my god. I'm gonna look up to see if her chart is on.
You're gonna find out her birth chart. That's your mission now.
Detective Sabrina, we're gonna find out.
Now the 8th house now, since you have the other stuff that's in there.
Yeah, so you and I are opposites.
Yeah, right.
You and I are opposites because for me, and mine are in different planets also. Are in different signs, excuse me. So for me, it's very easy for me to make money. I have a good self-worth. I have a good self-esteem, which is really funny because I always got ripped on a lot, but I never believed it. I'm like, why does this person think I'm not that great? I'm pretty cool. And, so I've got a really healthy self-esteem, which sometimes people think it means arrogance. It's like, no, I feel good about who I am. I know I'm a hard worker. I mean, I know I'm not like walking around looking like Angelina Jolie, but I don't look half bad. I make it work. I don't worry about those things. So I have a good, healthy self-esteem. And sometimes that really pisses people off. I'm not afraid to ask for what I think I'm worth, with money. I don't put up with any crap in relationships. As soon as you get stupid, I'm out of there. I don't put up with it. So I've got my South Node there. So there's a very healthy sense of self-worth. And also there's the ability to really go into making money, which has always been easy for me because I will drill down and focus on that. But that North Node in the 8th house means some of the issues that come up for me, that's going to be opposite of yours, is the way it showed up, though, is I always get stuck handling other people's money. Always get stuck handling other people's dirty money BS. And that has been the main thing. Or I've had to break people out of negative money mindsets. It's been crazy. The stories there are crazy. I've also had to learn to be more responsible with intimacy because I certainly had my bad days back in the day, and I had to learn to be a lot more responsible than I was. So we'll just leave it nice and politely.
So
I had a good time.
I found the lady's chart, by the way. So
okay.
Her North Node is in Cancer in the 4th house.
In Cancer in the 4th house, that's family stuff. Her roots. That's interesting. That would tell me with North Node in Cancer in the 4th house. So, and you have an exact time of birth for her too?
It's a chart on the internet. I believe it.
Okay, now I'm obsessed. Send me. I need to see this chart. I'm going to go look too because I have an exact time. I'm going to be. See what I mean? I'm obsessive. I warned you.
Okay,
this is going to become my life mission now. To interpret this.
You have a book on this lady's chart.
Okay, I do not see a time of birth yet. Let me look at a different one.
I love that we're doing the deep dive, but so I'm not an astrologer, but to me that it's in the 4th house, like that it's around home. And that's
it's home and it's also family and it's your root and her mother.
Situation is like so weird. The whole thing is just, but it's like
her living situation now is weird.
It's weird. And apparently that cabin that they live in was like an inherited thing from her family. To make it even.
It's all weird. I'm not finding an exact birth time. That makes me a little bit nervous. Let me look at this one. Ask Oracle thinks they have one. I'm seeing conflicting. There's no real time. So we're going to forget about the 4th house, but it's in Cancer.
Yeah.
So the big thing for her, with it being in Cancer, it is going to have a lot to do issues around mother, home, family, root. She's got to go in there and heal that because whatever's happening in her life right now, which is looking like a trauma response, is probably we can take it all the way back to what is your relationship like with your mother? Is it healed? What was your home life like? Did you have security? Did you feel secure? There would be a lot of issues about feeling secure. And that might be, if she's not dealing with that North Node, she might be choosing situations to create security that are based on her feeling insecure.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not her psychiatrist or her astrologer,
That
and
sounds
I
right,
don't know
though.
her. Yeah,
That
and I
sounds
don't know her. So, Lindy, if you're listening to this, please, I would never cause you harm with my readings, but I would say if we were doing North Node stuff, I would be encouraging you to really do the work right there.
so.
That's
Did you
the golden
say,
spot.
was there something that happened at like 45? Did you say?
Yeah, for me, that was my nodal, my reverse nodal return.
So I think
I had
she's
another one.
44 right now. So I guess next year she would be going through that. So
The reverse nodal return.
hopefully all of this gets resolved for her by then. Also, Lindy, if you're listening, we don't hate you. We want the best for you, which is I think why the story has gone so viral. Is like people want better for her. That's the
They
thing.
care about her.
Yeah.
They care about her. People, the other one of the things I always say is I want everyone to make it. I want everyone to succeed. There's very few people I want to see go to hell in a handbasket. That's like I can count on maybe 5 fingers. But really, I want everyone to make it and be good and be a decent human. And I think astrology and tarot can help people with that if it's done right.
Totally.
I want you to make it. And so if she was my client, I would just say, I want you to make it. I want you to be healthy and happy and loved the way you should be loved. I want you getting everything you deserve. That's what I would like to see. And so many people don't do that for themselves. They really don't. They choose these mediocre lives or terrible partners. They put up with crap they shouldn't, and they're unhappy, or they sleepwalk through life and wonder, how did I get here? It's like, well, wait a minute, let's pay attention. What do you really want? What do you need? What is astrology showing you? How can we get you there? Let's get this figured out.
That's part of why I love this work too, whether it's astrology or witchy stuff or tarot. Like that really for me, like is the point. Like, can we elevate, reject mediocrity, heal our shit, and move on in a good way and just live a good, happy, healthy life? Like, to me, that's what all this shit is about.
Yeah, it's about being proactive. Instead of saying life happened to me. No. Terrible things happen to you. Of course they do. Terrible things can happen that are very random. You don't get a choice which family you grow up in. I mean, believe me, I would have been choosing something else. No offense, mom and dad. I have no ill will towards my parents. I would have chosen a very, very different choice if I had it, but I was born into that family. I had to navigate it, and that is the thing. So we don't have control over everything, but astrology and tarot at least give us a map so we can start becoming good humans and have good lives and have a shot at being fulfilled and have a mission and a legacy and things to think about, whether that means writing 1 million books or tending to a beautiful garden, whatever it is.
Something else I just wanted to ask you too. A few other questions and then we'll wrap it up. Which return besides Saturn do you most wish people understood better?
I think the solar return is a really important one.
I was going to ask that.
And yeah, in my opinion, so the Saturn return, I think is really hella important. And I think anything with Saturn, Chiron, and the nodes, whether we're talking about your return charts or just where they are in your natal chart, that's important. Go into the wound, heal that crap, become a good human, and don't cause damage to other people. Simple. But when it comes to the return charts, the most important one is always going to be your solar return, 100%, because that's going to show your big theme for the year, where you could be putting energy, where you might be experiencing problems. It's very, very helpful. So, and here's a cool thing about the solar return. If you don't like the way the chart looks, travel on your birthday. I learned this from a book Bob Marks wrote about how to have success and happiness by traveling on your birthday. And it works. Because one year an astrologer told me that. They were like, you should go to LA on your birthday. I'm like, why? They're like, your solar return chart's so much better. Just go. You're going to have the best year. I said, what the hell? I'll try anything once. I always like to say I use myself as a petri dish for all the astrology and tarot so I can come back and report about it. And so I did it. And we were, on my birthday, I was in this Italian restaurant called Aroma, which no longer exists, in Silver Lake, having the most amazing meal next to this elderly couple named Ricky and Lucy, who used to live in New York in the garment district, and they were all involved in the garment, and they were just phenomenal people. And I had the best flipping year of my life. Like everything was awesome. I'm like, holy cats, there's something to it. Well, then COVID happened, and I couldn't travel on my birthday the last couple of years, and so I kind of got stuck with the chart I did. And last year, my astrologer Sam Reynolds, I love Sam Reynolds. He's a Scorpio. Again, I'm a Scorpio stan. He's an amazing astrologer, folks. You want to get blown away? Sam is my man. His website is Unlock Astrology. So I've been with Sam for years, and Sam looked at my chart. I wasn't even like paying attention what chart he was looking at. And he said, "You're going to bleed money this year." I'm like, God damn it. Don't tell me that. I'm like, well, maybe he'll be wrong. Oh my God. He was so right. I have bled so much money this year because of a horrible tenant situation, and my car died. And I looked back at my chart, the solar return. I'm like, God damn it. My son was in the second house, money, and it was horribly aspected by the moon. No wonder I bled so much money. I wish I would have paid attention and traveled on my birthday, but I didn't, and I couldn't, so I got stuck with it. So this next one that's coming up, because I am, again, obsessed, I was like looking at it, and it's really good. I have a really good solar return coming up if I stay home. So I'm supposed to be on my book tour, but I made sure on my book tour I'm not traveling on my birthday, because I'm going to have a very, very, very good solar return chart, like phenomenal. So Sabrina, you heard this here now. I better have the best year ever. If I bitch, you're going to tell me, what about that chart, you liar?
You heard it here. I'll hold you accountable. That's so cool, though, that there is a way to like work with a kind of bad chart. Like, I think that's really neat.
And I've done that with clients where I'm like, no, just go here on your birthday. And they've reported back that, oh my God, yeah, things were better because, or I had a better year. I mitigated some of the issues by traveling on their birthday. So it does work. It's
so how
crazy.
Do you decide where to go, though?
Well, just pick some random places so you find one you like. Now, Rebecca Gordon, who's another amazing astrologer, highly recommend her. I took classes with her, and she says, if you don't like the solar return, go west. That's when it gets better. And that's what happened. I went west from where I live. I went to Los Angeles that one year and had the best damn year, like phenomenal. So that's what Rebecca Gordon recommends. And she's another one. You're looking for a good astrologer or a really good teacher. Holy cats. Her classes are phenomenal. Highly recommend her. She also does astrocartography, which is where you can find the vibe of different places around the world to decide where to travel or where to live.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
I did also want to ask, I was going to ask about solar return, but you pretty much explained that. What do lunar returns reveal that people tend to overlook?
Lunar returns they show like, and you get one every month. They're showing like the moment that the moon is back in the place that it was in when you were born. And so what it does is it really gives you a glimpse into your emotional state or where you're going to be feeling emotional that month. So it can tell a lot about, how am I going to be feeling? Is my moon poorly aspected? Is this month, is it going to be in my house of relationships? Am I going to experience something great or problems? I think one of the lunar return charts examples I used was my own, that I was having a really cranky issue with a family member. And I'm like, oh, let me go look at my lunar return. And I'm like, holy, my lunar return was not in a good place. I ended up cutting this person off. And I mean, it was ugly. And my moon really reflected that. So you can, now if I would have looked at that before I got into this war with this person, maybe I would have sidestepped that, but it was too late. So the damage was done. And I look back later and I'm like, damn it. So it can give you a clue, again, to your emotions for the month. So how am I going to be feeling this month? Where am I going to be emotionally directing energy? And it's pretty interesting stuff.
Thank you. Sabrina, did you have any other questions or anything?
I was wondering about Venus and Jupiter returns.
Okay.
Those are both
Venus,
fun.
well, yeah, they're the benefics. So when your Venus return comes along, I mean, it's going to, first of all, activate how you love and how you spend. So the Venus return can really give you clues. And the Venus return comes around about once every 13 months, so about a year. And so what it does is, again, it gives you a lot of information about romance, relationships, children too, depending on where it's at sometimes. Children usually don't fall more under the sun's realm, but I do find people sometimes have issues with their children under a Venus return because it's who they love. It's who you love, how you love, and it also has a lot to do with your spending. So one of the examples I use in the book, I had somebody who was going through this horrific divorce, like bad, and also bleeding money left and right. I'm like, well, let's look at your Venus return. The Venus return was really poorly aspected, and the way it was hitting, it's like Venus was going back and forth because it also went retrograde. And so the Venus was like going back and forth over this person's Venus like a steamroller going over a squirrel. And basically what happened is this person had to boot their abusive spouse, and which was really ugly, and then had to support them because the dude was a loser for months until they finally were able to get a really good attorney and get that situation resolved. So the whole Venus return, during the time it was really active, they were going through hell. And then it took a full year to clean everything up afterwards. So the whole year was all about replenishing my money, getting rid of this loser, setting boundaries, getting a vicious lawyer, which is what I advise. I'm like, you've got to get the biggest bitch lawyer you can find. You got to get hardcore. So that's the Venus return. So Venus return, a lot of people though, another example I use is someone who found love during the Venus return. And the Venus return was well aspected. I'm like, okay, this could be the one for this person. And so far now they've been together a couple of years and it's heading that way. So their Venus return was really well aspected, found love. It's been going strong ever since. So that's awesome. Now the Jupiter return is giving you an opportunity. It's going to show where you're expanding and growing. So during the year that it's present, you'll find yourself experiencing a lot of growth. But it also sets a tone for the next 12 years of where you can expand, where you can grow as a human, in your work, depending on where it lands. You have to be very careful when the Jupiter return is really active, though, because sometimes you can put on a lot of weight. It's great if you're trying to bulk up. It's not so great if you're not trying to bulk up. So that's the one thing I found during a Jupiter return. Really pay attention to that. Unless, again, you're bodybuilding, then have at it. So Jupiter return can, again, really give you a lot of ideas about where you expand. So my Jupiter in my natal chart is in my 8th house. And so, during that time, it was good for me financially, which is the 8th house, when I was in the last Jupiter return. And then, of course, now my last chart has really done me dirty, but we're going to forget about that. Let me just quickly whip up my Jupiter return, though, just so I can tell you where it is again, because off the top of my head, I always forget. I have to have things written down. So my Jupiter return chart, the last one, is in my 11th house. And even though the themes of my 8th house, that's where my Jupiter resides, about money, yada, 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 that was going on during that year, now, over the course of the next 12 years, Jupiter's in my 11th house. That's a good placement. 11th house, Jupiter there, loves being there. So for that Jupiter, is that where it is in your natal chart?
Yeah, it is.
That's a good place for it to be.
Okay, good.
Just in general. In general, it's a good place because it's good for reaching goals, attracting friends. It's a little bit lucky there. It opens you up to a lot of cool social experiences. So it's really groovy. And so for it to be there for my Jupiter return chart, that is going to be very good for my goals. It could be good for my friendships, although I've made some big decisions about friendships through the Saturn return. Hopefully it's going to be better friends, better peers. That's what I'm hoping for. And I've been seeing it play out. Like I have some friendships that I have lately been really enjoying. So I'm thinking, okay, if I can have 12 years of some good people around me, I'll take it.
Thank you. If you ain't got anything left, I think I'm pretty good. Oh, one other question that I would ask. What do you hope that the readers get out of this book? If you could think of one thing.
If I can think of one thing, I hope to take a complicated subject and make it so people feel confident reading return charts and understanding those patterns for themselves or maybe for their clients. It's all about, again, creating that gateway. And then if they want to go deeper, I hope it sends you down a million rabbit holes and you get obsessed like I do.
I like that. That was great. Thank you so much, Theresa. That was an awesome interview. I had a really good time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And Sabrina, good to see you too. This was really, really wonderful. And I love talking tarot and astrology and all the witchy things. So it was my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Before we wrap it up, Sabrina, do you want to remind everybody where they can find both your shows?
Yeah, so everything is on YouTube, youtube.com/Sabrina Scott. I'm sure a lot of people are just watching this on YouTube. So just look Sabrina Scott on YouTube. It's over there. It's also linked on my website, sabrinamscott.com, where you can find out all things about tarot reading, coaching, whatever, all the things.
Thank you. I appreciate you making it. And Theresa, please let everybody know about your website and the book.
Yeah, so my website is thetarotlady.com. That's where you can find all things about me. I didn't even realize there was a chat thing going. Sorry, guys, if I ignored you. I didn't mean that. I didn't realize that. Anyhow, that's where you can find all things about me. And my new book is coming out on May 4th. And if you pre-order the book, which I really recommend you do, I'm actually doing a free live class for people who pre-order called How to Read Any Return Chart. It is going to give you the mechanics and the basics. So it is going to support what's in the book. So you're going to have your confidence before you even crack that book open. And the way to get there, just go to my website, tarotlady.com, click on books, click on the Book of Astrological Returns, scroll down and you'll see where to enter your email and also the receipt number for your pre-order. And then boom, you're in.
That is sick. Nice. That is really cool. Nice. That's impressive, actually. I don't think I've ever heard anybody really do anything like that.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah,
I love to teach, by the way.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody who joined in on the live. There was a lot of good stuff in the chat. Thank you for the questions. And again, thank you, Sabrina, for joining us. And Theresa, I really had a great time. Hopefully get you on again in the future. And that is awesome. And that is the end of another Occult Rejects. And until the next one, everybody be well.